Hey everybody, welcome back to Travel Trailer Nation. Okay, it's winter now and your RV is stored. So how are you going to keep the uninvited guests out of it? So here are a few tips to get you through your storage period and a few tips for camping season. Since the cold weather's here, let's just start with whether your trailer is stored off-site or whether it's, next to you on a pad like mine is. You're still at risk no matter what. So tip one, don't make any pest like mice or rats or what have you. I've heard of raccoons getting into trailers before. Don't make it easy for them. Get under your trailer, under the belly, and then use steel wool is one option. I don't like steel wool because it rusts and it basically shrinks down after a while. You can use a copper mesh, which is what I prefer, and or in combination with great stuff, rodent expanding foam, or Tomcat, which makes a brand that I'm going to use here in this video to go under my trailer and find any voids or holes or anything where I think something could get up and get in, and fill those up. And then I will probably trim away the excess because it does seem to expand pretty heavily out. And I think if you watched one of my videos earlier in the year, you can see that when they did their foaming job at the factory, it was a mess.
Okay, so here's an example of where you're going to want to pull this old foam out, and then you're going to want to spray foam it again with the rodent foam. I'm going to put some of the copper webbing in there as well, but I've got something else I'm going to need to do, and that's I'm going to have to buy some larger washers here because this is starting to break away and that's allowing it to sag. So I'm going to have to do that before I get to this, and I guess I'm going to do that next before I get started. But anyway, this is the kind of stuff you need to look for as you go down. Check your clearances as you go along, your chloroplast, and wherever you have something going in to the trailer, like in this case, it's the bracket going to the frame, but they get access to the floor that way. Also, your piping, your low point drains, your water drain, any of that. Go ahead and start checking all those holes and get them filled up.
So anyway, that's what I've used. And also, the other thing you can do is get down from your sink lines, where underneath the P-traps, any hole that goes down through your floor, and use that copper mesh there. I would recommend not foaming that because you want a certain amount of air circulation there, especially if it's heated under there. So what I would do is use the copper mesh, and that's going to keep things out anyway. All right, let's go on to tip number 2. All right, tip number 2 is basically the easiest one for you to do, which is keep your trailer empty. And especially when you're in storage, you're going over the winter months, get everything out, all your food, your clothing, your soaps, your towels, any paper products, Rodents in particular will look for anything to nest in. They'll even pick cardboard to grab and shred and make a nest out of. So you want to get everything out of the trailer, and that would include in your storage compartments too outside, because listen, if they can get in there, they're going to use that area to nest in over the winter and stay at least somewhat warm from the elements. Tip number 3, if your RV is on site like ours is, you may want to use bait stations. I use a bait station, well, I use a number of bait stations around my property, and they are dog safe. In other words, the dog can't get into them, Eva can't get into those bait stations. But you know what? I don't take that for granted. I push them up against the wall with a brick, and then I have bricks over the top so that they can't move in the wind or turn over and the bait come out. I don't need any of that. So they are really secured and safe for my pooch and all the pooches before her. We never had a problem. The thing that's nice about having the bait stations is I know for a fact they work. Don't ask me how I know. I know they work. Listen, we've got an interesting problem going on in the neighborhood right now that I won't elaborate on, and I think I can tie it to someone's yard who has a massive amount of overgrowth. And I've never seen anything like it this year. So needless to say, I am cycling through my bait stations and making sure that I have adequate bait in there, because the last thing I need is an infestation in my house or in my trailer. So anyway, that's why I say it doesn't matter whether your trailer is sitting on your property or whether it is sitting out in a storage area. You're at risk either way. Some folks will recommend using like cotton balls that have peppermint oil on them, or lavender, dryer sheets. I think there's a few other things that people will suggest, like Irish Spring. And I can tell you for a fact, my experience has been that Irish Spring doesn't do anything except give them something more to eat. That's why I say take all your soap out of your trailer. And I know this for a fact because when we worked on my grandmother's house, there were mice in there, and we had heard that that would basically deter them, so that when we left and weren't back until the next weekend to work on the house, we thought that would keep them up, but it didn't, man. It just gave them something to eat. And I mean, there were a lot of mice, so we had to go to bait stations and take care of the problem. So, you know, I would say do what you feel comfortable doing, and if that works for you, great. It has never worked for me. I have heard people having pretty good experience with the peppermint type cotton balls, but you know, again, mainly where I've heard that is for not really related to rodents, so more other bugs, but you know, like in particular geckos. But hey, if it works, it works. Okay, and going right along with that, if it's off-site, obviously you're not going to have private bait stations because you're not going to be able to keep an eye on them. But what we used to do, and this is part of what I was talking about with all the other things around peppermint oil or soap, that's basically tip 4. You may want to put decon in your trailer. They come in little boxes. You can put one under your bed. You could put one behind the toilet, but you will not want your dog in that trailer until you've removed them in the spring. We used to do that when we stored off-site, and I never had a mouse problem. Quite frankly, I don't think I ever saw that bait disturbed, and I attribute that really to just having a very empty trailer out there in the yard. And believe me, we were out alongside a railroad track and basically nothing around us. It was just overgrown, you know, wilderness. And so I feel pretty fortunate that we kind of got through there unscathed. So let's go on to tip number 5. All right, battery powered ultrasonic or strobe type deterrents that are, you know, you can put in your trailer, you can put in your storage area. I don't have any experience with them. I'll put a link below to just a generic search on Amazon so you can see what I'm talking about. Some people swear by them. I started going through the reviews to see how valid they were. And believe me, even when you might have 80% of the people who purchased them giving them a 5-star, you basically got 10 or 15% of the people basically saying they wish they could give them a 0. So take that for what it's worth. Maybe you'd be in the 80% using it. I did hear that strobes are pretty effective. Certainly wouldn't hurt to put a battery-powered strobe in your storage area. It can't hurt anything. And the batteries on at least one model go for about 6 months. So I will throw a link down there and you can take a look at it, see if it's, something that might work for you. Tip number 6 would be, if you're concerned about things like just ants and spiders, I would say get like an ortho type product and spray it around the trailer and on anything that touches the ground. Other people have used like, I think it's called diatomaceous earth. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm very conflicted about using that. I can understand using it at a campsite where you've got ant issues, especially if you're camping in Texas and you've decided you want to camp in a state park that's been known to have like crazy ants. Then I would say spread it around. But keep in mind, there's a lot of downsides to that. And one is that even though it's you need to get food grade, but even if you get the food grade, there have been issues with people having respiratory issues smelling it. And if you have a dog, and if it's anything like Eva, maybe snorting it, going around and sniffing it up, and that's just not something I'm willing to risk. If you don't have a dog, hey, maybe a great solution. Probably not in the winter though, because it's going to get blown away and eventually covered with snow. So if you're worried about bugs leading up into the winter in storage, I would probably recommend getting some sort of a spray and putting it down and taking your chances that way. All right, so let's go move into the summer camping season and talk about just a few things that you can do to avoid having critters coming into your camper while you're camping. And one is you need to keep your campsite clean. I see people all the time that have taken their trash and set it outside near the camper, and all that's going to do is attract bugs and rodents. And bugs have a pretty good sense of smell, especially ants. So, if you're doing that kind of thing and you've got food and litter around your campsite, you're asking for trouble. I even clean my grill and my griddle immediately after I cook because I don't need that, just that chance of bugs coming our way. The other thing I would say is inside the trailer, it's the same issue. As soon as you're done eating, clean your dishes, pick up all your stuff, put it away. Make sure that you've got, things like sugar in a sealed container, that kind of stuff, common sense type stuff. And then you should be good on the inside. It's just, bugs find a way in. The other thing I would say, if you're like me and you're going out when it's dark outside, what I try to do, and I know this isn't for everybody, but I try to kill the lights in the trailer so that when I open that door, they don't see the light and flock in. And I don't use that awning light at night. Now I have glow steps, so I get my steps glow a little bit as we go down. But if it's really dark out, I may hit the awning light on the dimmest setting just to get out the door and, back in again, and then off it goes, because any kind of light is going to attract the bugs, and there's nothing worse than hunting those bugs down. Bugs can create issues outside of just, being a nuisance in the trailer. They can also screw up your equipment. So I would highly recommend, if you don't have them, bug screens. Put them over the openings for the refrigerator on the outside of the trailer, over your water heater, over your furnace. And you'll probably help yourself out greatly by doing that so that you don't end up with mud daubers or something else getting in there and fouling up your equipment. I know a lot of people are concerned that, I put that over my furnace and I don't have adequate airflow and then they're not going to warranty. Well, you don't need to have it on there when you're camping, but you should have it on when you're not camping. Frankly, I've had mine on for years and years and years when we've camped, and I've never had an issue on any of the trailers that I've had, and I've had bug screens on all of them. So I'm not saying you should do that, but I'm telling you that my personal experience, it hasn't been a problem. But again, you know, you need to do what you feel comfortable with, and they're easy to put on and they're easy to take off. So if you're nervous about it, just pull them off when you're done camping, and yeah, and you'll be good. The last thing I want to talk to you about is the worst kind of intruder you can have with your RV, and that is someone who's set out to steal it. So if you're camped off-site, and I mean, even here it could happen. It's not likely. I have a locked gate and everything. It would be incredibly hard for someone to come in and grab my trailer. Probably not unheard of, but it'd be rare. You need to get a really, really good lock for your the ball hitch on your trailer, and don't spare any money. You know, there's all these $19 locks out there that aren't going to do anything. A guy's going to come up with a ball peen hammer and hit it once, and he's going to pull your trailer away. You've got to do whatever you can do to make it really hard for someone to steal your trailer when it's not by you. And I would recommend that you get, and I'll put a link below to the lock I have, but there's some like it on the internet that are just as good. Mine's a puck type lock, very durable. The other thing that I do, and you'll want to do, is lock those chains up so that, you know, wrap them around the frame of the trailer and put a heavy duty lock on it so they can't just come up and hook up your chains, cradle the ball, and head on out away from wherever it's stored. So those are kind of my tips for you moving into the winter here, at least in the south. The people that are up north right now are already in the midst of it, but hopefully it gives them a little bit to think about, and if they haven't thought about it already. And you know, let's make sure we don't have any intruders in our trailers over the winter so that we can enjoy our camping season when it starts again. My camping season starts again in about 10 days. And we'll be heading down to a state park here in Texas, and I will throw a video out, let you guys know how it's going. But until then, happy camping.